Good afternoon. I am Victoria Wright, and I'm the Marketing and Outreach Coordinator for Department of Procurement Services. This workshop is how to become certified. Is everybody here for that? Okay. Thank you for coming out today. Everyone should have signed in before they came in and taken the handouts on the table. We have an evaluation that I'm going to ask everybody to fill out at the end. If you're staying for the second workshop, which is doing business with the city, then you can fill it out after that workshop. And if you're leaving, then I'm gonna ask you to fill it out at the end of this one. And we have out there the document checklist for the Schedule A, which is the application for how to become certified. We have our 2016 workshop schedule, so it's the complete schedule for this year, if you don't already have that. The DPS alert card. So we send out an alert every Monday with the bid opportunity list on it. If you're not signed up for DPS alerts, I always highly recommend that you get on that list. So basically all you have to do is give us your email address and we send out an alert on Mondays. You might get one on Wednesday or Friday, but we try not to bombard people with a lot of emails. So the one on Monday is most important because the bid opportunity lists are all the contracts that are actually on the street and are available to bid on at that time. And the last thing is the mayor is now sponsoring resident fairs in the neighborhoods almost every Saturday. Not this Saturday because it's Easter, but the following 2 Saturdays and into May, there'll be resident fairs in the neighborhoods where all the city departments will be present to give out information about the services that we provide to you guys. Okay, so I do need to let you know that this room is being video recorded, live streamed to YouTube. So all of Department of Procurement Services with workshops can now be found on YouTube. And the title of the page is Chicago DPS. So the camera is only up here, so none of you are on camera. It's only the speaker who's on camera. And for that reason, we try to start on time and end on time. Okay, and we're gonna ask that you hold your questions to the end and let us answer all the questions at the end at one time. So let me see what else. I guess that's really it. I'm gonna turn it over to Francisco. He is the certification officer in one of the certification officers in our office, and he's gonna host it. I will be back to make sure that I pick up. Is anybody staying for the second half? Okay, because we did have a lot of people. It seemed like both classes were full, so Francisco is teaching this half, and then there'll be somebody else to teach the second half. So it'll be like 15 minutes in between the 2 workshops. So I'll turn it over to Francisco.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to the workshop. Hopefully, at the end of this workshop, I have answered most of your most common questions regarding applying for certification. So, the City of Chicago has a couple of programs that they offer for certification. One of them being Minority Business Enterprise, Women Business Enterprise, and Business Enterprise for people with disabilities. Just to provide an overview of the department, who we are the Department of Procurement Services, is the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. We work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing communication and enforcing superior business practices. Okay? So just a little bit more of what we do. DPS is committed to providing information, resources, and tools to assist you in your efforts to compete for City of Chicago contracting opportunities. Okay? We accept new applications for certification, accept annual recertifications, also known as no change affidavits, and we accept 5-year recertification applications or continuing eligibility applications. Okay? We also contract compliance with negotiated contractual MWDBE participation goals. So our office is also make sure that any contract is being fulfilled the way that it was planned from the beginning. Obviously, if there's changes, there's ways to amend all these things. So we oversee that. We set standards to contract participation for MWB as well as DBE and ACDBE. We assist vendors through our website, which is www.cityofchicago.org/procurement, and also chicago.mwbe.com. So I misspoke a little bit earlier. I said 3 programs. The 3 programs that I mentioned earlier, which is minority-owned business enterprise, women-owned business enterprise, and business enterprise owned or managed by people with disabilities. Those are programs that we call local programs. Those are programs that are regulated by the city. Then we are also a certifying agency for DBE and ACDBE. DBE is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. ACDBE is Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. Now, those 2 programs are regulated by the U.S. Department of Transportation. So, for example, if we are getting federal dollars for a contract, we will require DBE or ACDBE participation. If it is a project that is local and it's from within, then we would require minority-owned or woman-owned business enterprise participation. BPD is a little bit different, but we could talk about that later if anybody has any specific questions on BPD. Okay, benefits of certification. It provides visibility. Once certified, your firm is listed on the directory, which is accessible to the general public. Our website publishes everyone that's certified within our local programs. So minority, MBE, WBE, and BPD. So for instance, if Walsh Construction is looking for a company that does finished carpentry, they know to go to our directory and they can search by the code that they're looking for. Or they can search by the name, or just by the industry in itself, okay? We also, there are also minority, women, and disadvantaged persons goals on City of Chicago projects, as well as projects offered by sister agencies in which a City of Chicago certification is recognized by these agencies and private firms. So for instance, most contracts that come out of the Department of Procurement have specifications requiring minority and women-owned participation. At this point, I will verify this. It's 26% minority-owned is what we seek and look to usually put on a contract for minority-owned participation, and 6% for women-owned participation. It went up. It's going up to that, yes. So in April, it will be going up to that. Now, the city does its best to include these goals on every contract, and we have been doing a pretty good job at that. Also, let me see. The City of Chicago has also a target market program, which provides exclusive bidding to certified minority and women-owned business enterprises. This allows certified businesses to take 100% of the pie because there are no subcontractor goals associated with the project. What this means is the City of Chicago recognizes that there is contracts out there that we can give directly to certified firms. Most of our certified firms, because of site standards, we require that a business, in order to be certified, they're considered a small business. So we recognize that they will not be able to do all jobs by themselves. So, but the ones that we feel that a small company can do on their own, we give them exclusive rights to bid on it. So that takes away any big company or any non-certifiable company, which is a good thing for small businesses to have exclusive rights to bid on a project. How do you qualify? The main the groups that qualify are African American, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, women, persons with disabilities, and other individuals who can prove social and economic disadvantage. So continued on the qualifications, you have to be considered what we call a local business. Principal place of business and majority of your full-time workforce has to be located in the 6-county region, and those counties are Cook, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, and Will. DBE and ACDBE are a little bit different because these are federal programs. You could be anywhere in the state of Illinois and be certified. So in order to qualify for the program as well, you also have to be 51% owned, controlled, and managed by minority, women, persons with disability, or social or economically disadvantaged individual. I don't know how many times I get phone calls from people telling me, well, the company this company is 60% owned by minority female, but the person that actually runs the business is a 40% non-qualifying member. So it is very important that it's not just ownership in the company. You also have to be the one that's running the day-to-day operations. You have to be the one that's in the forefront of your company in order for you to qualify for the program, okay? So I spoke about this a little bit earlier when I was saying small business. MBWE must not be an established business. So according to the regulations for non-construction firms, a small business is considered any firm that averages below 37.3 million a year. For construction firms, it depends on what part of construction you are certified in. So for instance, off the top of my head, I can tell you that if you get certified as a masonry contractor, your gross receipts limit is 15 million throughout a 5-year average. So if you're under 15 million in your 5-year average, you're certifiable. If you're above 15 million, you are what's considered an established business. Okay, DBE. For DBE, an established business is 22.4 million or SBA size limit for the firm's primary line of business. So if you are DBE certified, it's either 22.4 million or the size standard, whichever is lower, okay? And ACDBE is a little bit different, Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. As long as you don't surpass 52.47 million over a 3-year span average, you will not be considered an established business, okay? So let's go to the next one. Okay, now the application process. I have to update this slide and I apologize. You can no longer submit an application via hard copy. Everything has to be done electronically, okay? And you can submit the application electronically at chicago.mwdbe.com. There is a $250 fee to apply for a minority-owned or woman-owned business enterprise. If you're applying for both, the fee is still $250. You don't have to pay $250 for each. And that has to be paid in money order or cashier's check. There is no fee for DBE, ACDBE, or BEPD. Those are free of charge. And make sure that you submit all supporting documentation. This is important. Make sure that when you apply, you submit everything. I can't stress that enough. A lot of times we run into an application and we realize that there's crucial information that's missing, and we have to then request it from the business owner, and we understand business owners are busy. So it delays the process to to a point where you don't want to be there. If you're going to fill out the application from the beginning, make sure it is complete. This is one of the things that causes the most delays in reviewing an application. Okay. Okay, the type of information that we're going to need from you. We're going to need all your contact information. Email, telephone numbers, your business phone number, your cell phone. Yeah, there we go. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay, so we'll just go over this slide again real quick. I apologize for the hard copy. It shouldn't be there. It's all do it, and you could do it at chicagomwdb.com. $250 fee for minority-owned, women-owned, and it has to be in the form of cashier's check, money order, or certified check. And again, make sure you submit all your information. What we're going to need from you, your contact information. It seems simple enough, but make sure that you guys put reliable information there. Don't put a cell phone number if you know that phone number might not be on in a month. Make sure you put something that's going to be on at all times. Make sure that there's no typos with the address and things like that. You're going to have to provide to us information on what certification you are seeking. This is your responsibility. And we have had, times in the past where a woman has checked that she wants to apply for a woman-owned business enterprise, but she also qualifies for minority-owned, but she doesn't check it. We cannot check it for her. She or the applicant needs to request whatever they are applying for. It is their responsibility. Okay? We're going to need information on your ownership in the firm. We're going to need paperwork proving that you are the main contributor to the startup of this company. You're going to need to provide employee information, facility information, leases on where you conduct your business. A lot of people do conduct their business out of home, which is fine in some industries. It's all depending on your industry. So for example, if I have a trucking firm, can I really work out of my house? I'm like, yes, I could have my home office in my house, but where am I storing my semis? I need to have a yard or somewhere where I'm storing all my trucks. Okay, so that's the type of information when it comes to facilities. We're going to need financial information. We're going to need the company's last 3 years of tax returns, 5 years if it's a construction firm, and then we're also going to need the last 3 years of your individual tax returns, okay, as well as financial statements for your business, banking information, and things like that. Licenses. Now, this is only for firms where it's applicable. So, for instance, in construction, there's only a few industries where you are required to have a special license. One of them being masonry, electricians. I'm not sure if plumbers do, but there's some. But in professional services, we have architects, engineers. Those we will require to give us the licenses or certifications that allow you to do business in the state of Illinois legally. Other industries, we don't require, obviously, if it's not necessary. Okay, as a business owner and for certification purposes, you have to be able to prove that you can do the job that you're seeking certification in. So how do we verify this? We need resumes. We need, if you're a member of professional associations, a listing of the equipment that you own, leases of equipment that you own, the leases of anything that may help support the case that you actually can do the job. Okay, this is very important because this demonstrates that you are in control of your company. You know, like I said, I'll bring up the example I had earlier where, you know, you have a minority woman that's 60% owner, but all of all of the experience in the industry that we're certifying may be a non-eligible member. Therefore, you won't be eligible for certification, okay? We're also going to need contract information, to make sure that, you've been receiving work and you've actually been doing this type of work. We also understand that sometimes you're not going to have contracts because you may be a startup, and that's okay in some cases. In other cases, it's going to be a little bit harder to prove that you have the experience. But every case it holds its own requirements per se, and everybody has their own story to tell, Okay, the types of ownerships that are certifiable through our programs is a sole proprietor. This typically is when one person just does business as, with no legal existence apart from the person himself or herself. You must submit your assumed name certificate, okay? And then there's general partnerships, 2 or more people going to business together without any formalities. There'll be a partnership agreement. We also have limited partnership. The limited partnerships are more like stakeholders in a corporation. They are not liable for debts beyond their own contributions. For this, you can either turn in an assumed name certificate or a certificate of limited partnership. And then you also have a corporation, which is more common. A corporation is treated as an entity completely separate from its stakeholders or shareholders. It allows others to invest in the business without being liable for the debts of the business. Now, if you are a corporation, you have to make sure that your business is in good standings with the Secretary of State. Okay, so make sure you guys take a look at that. We're going to need the articles of incorporation, certificate of incorporation if you have it, bylaws of corporation, copies of all stock certificates issued, and meeting minutes. Okay, this for a corporation. We're going to need all of this information. Then we have the limited liability company, LLC, which is a partnership that have a managing member or partner. Now, for this one, you also have to make sure that you're in good standings with the state of Illinois. We're going to need your articles of organization. If you're a sole member LLC, we don't necessarily need an operating agreement, but it's always good to have one. But if you have more than one member, then we will need a operating agreement. Okay. Now, for those of you that are seek certification as a supplier, okay, this is very, very important if you are trying to seek any type of certification as a supplier. Suppliers, as the city defines it, is a supplier must be a regular dealer, which is a firm that owns, operates, or maintains a store, warehouse, or other establishment in which materials, supplies, and articles sold are leased to the public in the usual course of business. So if I'm a supplier and a customer calls me on the phone and says, hey, do you have, let's say I do mailboxes, right? And he asks me for a certain type of mailbox. I'm like, well, let me go check my inventory. And I walk to the back of the store and I look at all my mailboxes and boom, there, that's the box that he wants. That's what a supplier is according to the city of Chicago. Okay, and it's very important that you remember what we define a supplier as, okay? Distributors. Now, a firm that operates as a distributor are identified as having a direct relationship with the manufacturer to distribute its goods and products within a specified territory or region. The goods and or products are not available or sold to the general public. So a distributor, according to what the city defines it as, is anyone that has exclusive rights to sell a certain product. So you would be the only person in a region or territory that can actually sell this, right? That's what we consider a distributor. Now we're going to talk about brokers. Okay, brokers. Firms acting as brokers are not eligible for certification as an MWBE, M or WBE, okay? They are not eligible for certification. So a broker is a person or entity that fills orders by purchasing or receiving supplies from a third-party supplier rather than out of its own existing inventory and provides no substantial service other than acting as a conduit between his and her supplier and his or her customer is a broker. So you call me and ask me about the mailbox, right? And then I look online and I'm like, okay, so my supplier has the mailbox. That's a broker. So now I'm telling my supplier to send my client the mailbox. That is not certifiable with the city of Chicago. You will be denied certification if that's what you're doing. Okay. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about after the application is submitted. The process can take approximately 60 to 90 days from the day we receive all documents. So remember earlier I was stressing that it's important that you submit a complete application. This is why. Because technically every single time an officer requests information that is missing, the clock starts all over for the review process. So that's why it's so important to have it complete. Okay? Your application is checked to make sure we have all documentation. So we do our best to, when we receive the applications, to take a quick look at it, see if everything is there. But you know, sometimes we receive, sometimes we see something there. For instance, here's a big thing that people do. When you submit your tax returns, you might submit half of them. So when we're doing the initial review real quick, oh, okay, the tax returns are here. But when the officer gets it, we're like, wait, we're missing a schedule, we're missing a statement, and then we have to request all that information, okay? So make sure that you're, so once we receive it, we go through all your documentation thoroughly, we audit it. You may receive a site visit depending on what you do. So if you're seeking supplier, trucking, construction, any type of codes in those industries, you will receive a site visit. That's 100% of the times. All others, the officer reserves the right whether he needs to conduct a site visit or not. Okay. If approved, your certification is going to be valid for 5 years. There are expedited ways to submit your certification. We recognize what's called an outside certification. Now, an outside certification is given to those who are already certified with the Women's Business Development Center or with the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council. Okay? It's called an outside certification because we're requiring less documentation. So what we're saying here is we're saying since you are certified with either one of these two agencies, we are trusting that they have conducted a thorough review of your application. So all we need to do is now we just require less documentation, so we can just do a quick overview of your company to see if you qualify for the city's programs or not. Just keep in mind though that you may be certified with them, but the actual requirements that they have for certification are different from us. So you may qualify for their program, but not necessarily for ours. Okay, just want you guys to keep that in mind. So now that you have your certification, now we're gonna talk about maintaining your certification. Every year after you receive certification, you have to file what's called an annual no change affidavit. The annual no change affidavit usually takes anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours, depending if there's any changes on with your firm. If there's no changes, you guys should be able to breeze through it. Just it's pretty much just letting us know, look, since your last review, nothing has changed. Ownership's the same. We're still at the same address, same phone number, same owners, all of that. Okay. Every 5 years, you have to submit a recertification. The recertification is very similar to the original application. It requires a few documents less. It's actually a little bit shorter, but not anything, not by much. And again, you would have to pay the $250 fee at the 5-year recertification. Okay, so now, let's say you got certified in a couple of codes, right? You got certified as a trucking company and, hold on, let me use a better example. You got certified as a finished carpenter and a electrician, right? But then 2 years later, you are able to obtain your masonry license. So now you want to have the code for masonry. You can actually submit what's called an expansion request. When you submit this, you're requesting that your company be reviewed to receive additional codes. You have to make this request through a letter on your company letterhead, include the codes that you actually want, and then if required, submit the licenses, insurance, and future or present contracts that you have, any additional information that will help us make the determination that you qualify for the program. Now, something neat about our certification is some of our agencies with the City of Chicago, they do their own procurement. So they don't go through our office. So for instance, Chicago Public Schools is one of our sister agencies that has their own procurement department. But they also seek minority and women-owned participation. So they would accept our certification. So will Cook County. We have an agreement with Cook County where they will accept our certification and we will accept theirs. So if anybody here is certified with Cook County, there is absolutely no reason why you should be certified with the city, because the city's going to recognize the county certification. And the county is also going to they will validate our certification as well. So if you're certified with us, there's no need to seek certification with Cook County. Now, Chicago Park District, Public Building Commission, the Chicago Housing Authority, Chicago Transit Authority, City Colleges, Metropolitan Pier Exhibition Authority, and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. Okay, so those are all the sister agencies that accept our certification. Okay, top 10 reasons to avoid, so that way you don't get denied certification. Okay, these are the best tips of the entire presentation. So, okay, point of contact did not respond to requests for information in a timely manner. So, as a business owner, you guys are probably really busy, and you can never tell whether a day is going to be easy or not. And we understand that. So that's why, again, I tell you guys, when you guys sit down and do this application, be sure that you're including everything. If you have any questions, call our office, okay? Because once we send out a request for information, you get a certain amount of time to respond, say 15 days. Maybe during those 15 days, you're out of town. So then we'll send you another request for information and saying, look, there's the second attempt. You have 10 days. And then maybe those 10 days, you're putting out some fires. Then we send you a final one saying 5 days, saying if you don't respond within these 5 days, we're going to close your application. And that can happen, although we do our best not to let that happen, okay? We understand that you guys are busy, and we do our best to make sure that we work with your schedule and work with you and or your staff, okay? Inconsistencies with the application, firm names among various documents. So, for instance, the best way to explain this is I've received an application in the past where some documents say, I'll just use as an example, Nunez Corporation. My last name is Nunez, that's what it's a fictional, it's fictional company. Nunez Corporation in one document, and then in another one, we have Nunez Corporation LLC. So you see, so if those types of inconsistencies will get you a denial in a heartbeat. Problems with contracts. Say, for instance, I want to, prove that I am an electrician, but I don't have a license. I don't have any contracts to show for it. There is no signatures on any of the information that I'm sending you. Therefore, it's not a legal binding document. That can give you a denial. Required documents are not attached or no explanation. So, so just a quick tip here: if you are seeking certification, and we're requiring you to provide the last 3 years of financial statements, but you've only been in business for 2 years, we completely understand that. So what we do is, what we require is you just put a real quick note saying, my business was started in May of 2014, therefore I have nothing for 2013. Understandable. Because technically, to be certified with the City of Chicago, you can actually incorporate today or organize today and seek certification tomorrow. Technically, you can do that. There's nothing against it, as long as you can prove that, again, you're in control of the company and you have the expertise to provide the services or the work that you are seeking certification in. Tax returns. A lot of times we receive the tax returns, but they're not signed. They have to be signed. I know sometimes we file electronically, and that's okay. If you provide us with the e-filing copy, that'll work. It's just we always want to make sure that we actually have the correct copy of your tax returns. That's why the signature is important. Okay. So the question was whether if a tax return is submitted with the page that says it was electronic filed, if that is sufficient. Yes, that is sufficient. Okay. Okay. So again, where do you go if you need help? You can call our office. Okay. We are always there. There's always someone will always answer the phone. Okay. And it is 312-744-4900. Okay. And there it's going to bring you to you got to press 1 for certification, 2 for compliance, and 3 for contract. So you'll press 1 for certification. Our team is always logged on and ready to answer your questions. Obviously, as long as City Hall is open, we are ready, okay? Also, there are places in your area that may assist you. We don't. The city doesn't recommend any particular assist agency, but the website does have a list of assist agencies if that's what you're seeking. Okay, but again, it's very important that you guys give us a call if you have any questions regarding anything. I always give my personal line if somebody calls and asks me a question, especially when they're more complicated. And the reason why is because I don't want the person to call again and have to spend another 20 minutes with a different officer explaining the situation when they've already spent those 20 minutes with me. Okay? So now we'll take some questions.
Here, let me get over there with the mic.
What's the major difference between the DBE and the MBE certification?
Okay, so the question, what is the main difference between MBE and DBE? It all comes from funding. Funding. Where's the money coming from? So if the money's coming from the U.S. Department of Transportation, DBE is going to be mandatory. If the money is coming from City Council and it's money that's used from the city, local money, then MBE or WBE is required. There are instances where, they may be seeking both because there might be a combination, but those are more rare. But the major difference is the source of funding, whether it's federal money or local money.
And basically with the MBE and DBE, it's almost the same documents. But we do a workshop for DBE, so it's a DBE ACDBE class. But if you get all your documents together for MBE and WBE, it's almost going to be the same document. So I always tell people, if you're paying for the M and the W, just keep those documents together because it's almost going to be the same documents for the D.
That is correct. Okay, Himford, go ahead.
How do you know which one of your what your business is going to come up under? Like I got a trucking company.
How do you know
What I've used
or WBE or DBE? Okay, so how do you know what? So you get
what
to
certification that would come up
You
So
can,
yeah, go
for
ahead.
trucking company, you could be M and D because they use trucking companies at the airport. So most DBE contracts are fairly funded. Most of those contracts, a lot of them are at the airport. And if you're a trucking company, they definitely use trucking companies at the airport. So you might want to have both because the DBE, if you were trying to get a federal contract, you want the D. If you're trying to get a local contract, then you want, you
Okay,
could get both.
yeah.
And the DB is free. The DBE application is free to fill it out. That's why I always tell people, you might as well, try to do both at the same time. And then the DBE documents are pretty close to the same documents.
That is correct. And that brings me back to the point that I made earlier. Whenever you're applying for this certification, make sure you click on everything that you want to be certified at. Because Victoria is absolutely right. If you're a trucking firm and you're already applying for MBE or WBE or both, and you feel like you want to bid on opportunities as a DBE, might as well do all three at the same time. Whatever you apply, obviously to be a woman-owned business, the business has to be owned by 51% and controlled by a woman. DBE though, it's either a woman or a minority male. Okay, so it's again, make sure that before you submit your application, you know exactly what you want to apply for and what codes you want, because that's also your responsibility. A lot of times you could be a construction firm and you could be a trucking firm, for instance, and you can say, I want to be certified as a dump truck driver. We might certify you as a dump truck driver, but then you're going to be like, well, why didn't you certify me as this type of truck driver? That's your responsibility to tell us what you want to be certified as. Okay, and that's for any industry.
With filling out the applications online, it seems relatively impossible to do it all at one time. So can you save it and come back to it, or do you have to keep it all together at one time?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is very difficult to have one sitting and fill out the entire application unless you're seasoned. If you know how to do this and this is what you do for a living, yes. But most business owners go through it once every 5 years, right? So you're not going to be seasoned. So yes, you have that ability to save, and the next time you log in, you could start off right where you left off.
And there's also a class for that. We have a class for the online Schedule A application where we assist you with how to fill out the application.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the workshop schedule that you have. I think it was actually just last week or 2 weeks ago, so the next one probably won't be to the next quarter. But, so we do all of the workshops quarterly, except for how to become certified, which is every month. So if you missed it in this quarter, we'll have another class in the next quarter.
Yes. Okay, questions?
And I was just gonna go back to, the assist agencies as well. There's a list of assist agencies in the buying plan that's on that rack out there. There's about over 20 different assist agencies. Yes, and it's basically just your Chamber of Commerce. So there's a different Chamber of Commerce almost in every single neighborhood. If you just Google your neighborhood with Chamber of Commerce. So we have the South Shore Chamber, the Chatham, Avalon, Hacia, Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Austin Chamber of Commerce. There's one in every neighborhood. The only thing, now they might want you to become a member of their chamber, and that might be like $25, to become a member. But these agencies help small businesses grow. They usually know what contracts are coming up, so they try to keep their members up to date on different contracts that are coming out. So I do, sometimes I recommend instead of paying somebody to help you with your application, that you go to a Chamber of Commerce or you call us. It's always probably better to call us first and get the answer straight from the agency, from our agency. But the Chamber of Commerce have a lot to add to help small businesses as well.
So again, I want to stress this. I can't stress it enough because it happens often. And whenever you're seeking certification, make sure that you guys know exactly what you guys are seeking certification in. Okay, I can't stress it enough. A lot of times, because you're already spending this time doing it, and don't spend time in the future, trying to correct simple errors or simple things that you might have overlooked to save a couple of seconds. It's important that you thoroughly look through everything, double check it, and again, you can always call us to make sure that we have everything.
So he's saying, know what your NAICS codes are
Yeah.
gonna be, and you can Google that at naics.com. So,
Yeah.
so if you know that you wanna, if you don't know exactly what codes you want, go through the NAICS codes, and you can go through and find out which code. So if you, actually, and I guess I can tell this class now, our Department of Planning and Development has some JOC projects coming out real soon. Job order contracts for construction. And we're actually gonna have a separate workshop for that coming up. But they're looking for roofers, people who do porches, and people who do HVAC. So, but when we went into our MBE, WBE list, when I went into the NAICS codes and I just put HVAC, there's so many different codes for HVAC. So you need to know which one you want in your certification.
Right.
And then same thing with carpenters. There's so many different NAICS codes for carpenters. Maybe you're a carpenter who does floors, who does painting, who does drywall, but only you know which code it is that you want in your certification. There is a way to add that. You already went over that,
we
right?
talked about the
Yeah,
expansion.
so you can do an expansion, but why not just try to do everything at the beginning? And I even recommend, like Francisco said, you can get your certificate. You can be incorporated today and seek your certification tomorrow. I always try to tell people to try to get it as soon as possible, so you're not bogged down with so much paper that you can't find all your paperwork. And then if you are a new business, that's one of the most important things to do is keep up with all your paperwork. If you got your taxes over here, your financial statements over here, your bank statements over here, then that's when people get frustrated trying to find all those documents. If you're a new company, that should be something that you definitely want to do, is keep all documents, everything with your business in one place. So that when you start doing this, you're not searching all over the place to find documents.
Yeah, like Victoria said, it's but you know how many times we get phone calls from a vendor saying like, oh, I'm applying for certification now because I got this great opportunity to get on a contract next week. And that's almost impossible, almost. everything is possible, but the thing is, always be prepared. Always be prepared, for that next opportunity.
My question is, like you were saying with startup companies, if you're, filing for LLC, for the documentation that you're requiring, like financial statements and things like that, you really won't have it on the company level. So in that part, will you just be looking at the individual or the member level?
Right. So again, if you are a startup and we're asking for 3 years of financial statements. And let me be quite honest with you. Sometimes our small businesses can't afford to get an accountant to do financial statements. And we understand that. But for a startup, it's impossible to have them, right? Because they didn't exist. So just a brief note, just stating the reason why they don't exist is sufficient. So for instance, I've had companies who gross receipts average for the past 3 years was about $10,000. And this is obviously a small company that's trying to get on its feet. So do I expect them to go to a CPA and pay them $1,000 every year to get financial statements for a $10,000 gross receipts? It would not make sense for them to spend 10% of their earnings on financial statements. So we understand that, and we try to be as understanding as possible. But we see all scales of businesses, and we know at what point it may be mandatory, at what point we can overlook it. Not overlook it, but we can waive it per se. Okay, so the question is, you've been in business for 3 years, and you said your financial statements are in big boxes. Okay, no. We will not receive any information in physical form. Everything has to be scanned. Now, for instance, if you have receipts and all that stuff, we don't need your receipts. What we need is just financial statements from your accountant. If you don't have financial statements from your accountant or any type of form of financial statements, then we're not going to require you to go out there and get them if it's not necessary. Now, if your company is averaging $5 million a year for the past 3 years, you should have financial statements that are prepared by a CPA. So we understand again that some companies won't have this information, and it makes sense and it's very understandable, but others won't be able to get away without submitting some of the information.
The only other thing I want to point out, and I'm going to tell you, it is going to happen. Even though Francisco said, make sure you submit all your documents. You might think that you checked everything off. You're going to get a call for a document. I'm going to just tell you, it's going to happen. You might say, I already turned in those bank statements. I'm not saying they're necessarily going to ask for bank statements, but, and Francisco is not the only auditor, but there's going to be somebody who contacts you and says, hey, I need to see those bank statements. And I already turned in my bank statements. What? Just send it. People get so caught up in saying, I already sent it. Why do I have to do it? You are wasting time by saying I already sent it. If you already have all your documents together and they are filed neatly, or you have everything still together from what you submitted, just submit it, because you're fighting a losing battle. If they say they need it, just send it. And then once you send it and they say that's not enough, then they'll explain to you why that's not enough or why they need something else. I got a call from a lady the other day that was hot because one of the auditors wanted to know the nationality of her husband. Why do you need to know that? Well, she had said in her application that the husband provided the money to start up the company. That's fine, but was he a minority or was he Caucasian? And he supplied all your money. If it was a Caucasian who supplied all your money and you're trying to be minority, then that might look like a front. And saying that that person who gave you $500,000 is really the person who's going to control that company. So we weren't trying to say, well, we want to know what nationality your husband is. That's not the case. We just want to make sure it's not a front. Yeah. Yes, you can come in. We just want, that's the reason for the question, but she was like really hot because she wanted to know why the auditor was asked. I wasn't even the auditor, but she was mad and she got me and she wanted to know why. So that's the reason. It's always a reason why they're asking for that document. And I think she more thought it was because she was African American and somebody was asking her, was her husband African American, but it wasn't like that. So
Right.
if they ask you for something, just try to just turn it in because it's pushing back the time that your application could be approved.
Just so you know, as a certification officer, when I open up a new application for certification, I go in it with the mindset that, that we should help small businesses. And that's the goal of this certification, to help small businesses, to help you guys succeed and get a fair to get a fair chance at getting us into these contracts. So whenever we're talking to you or asking for information, it's nothing personal. We just want to make sure that we cross all our T's and dot all our I's, okay? So if ever anybody questions your certification, everyone and anyone can sit there and say, this is legit, this is what it's supposed to be, okay? With that, we will,
Ask that everybody, if you're not staying for doing business with the city, if you could fill out the evaluation, and I'll collect that before you leave. If you're staying for doing business, you got about 15 minutes before we get started. And I do have some different handouts for doing business with the city of Chicago, and if you could just come out to pick those up. So if you're coming in for doing, if you could just sign the sign-in sheet right here.
so also I'll be around for the next 5-10 minutes if you guys have any